Here in week 16 as fantasy football players, we have a ton on the line. We have been working all season long to reach this point to hopefully secure a fantasy championship. But in the game of life, these NFL players that we're banking on every single week are trying to reach some incentives of their own. And today I'm going to talk about my top 15 incentives that could impact fantasy football the rest of the season. And number one on this list is going to be Javonte Williams, and he's going to end up taking care of this incentive in week 16, so it's not going to last much longer. But Javonte Williams only needs 9 more rushing yards to hit an incentive of $250,000 for the year. And honestly, you could make an argument that Javonte Williams should be considered one of the MVP candidates of fantasy football for 2025. Considering where he was drafted and that most people out there didn't believe that he was even going to be the starter come week 1, Javonte Williams has been a mainstay in our fantasy lineup all season long. Now, obviously, Javonte Williams should end up passing that incentive this weekend, but he has a chance to go even higher than that with matchups in week 17 against Washington and week 18 against the New York Giants. Javonte Williams has an opportunity to finish locked in as a top 10 fantasy running back for the entire season. Number 2 is Saquon Barkley, and I know he has let you down basically for the entire season. Outside of a couple of games, he largely, for the most part, hasn't been anywhere near a fantasy reliable player for the entire year. But now he's got back-to-back weeks inside the top 10, and he's got some solid matchups coming up. Barkley needs 287 total yards over the next 3 games to reach $250,000. And he's got some great matchups that he can definitely take advantage of. Washington this week, then he's going to have Buffalo, and then Washington again to end the season. Obviously, to get to that plateau over the next 3 games, for 287 yards, he's going to have to average just under 100 yards per game. And because of the matchups that he has coming up, he absolutely could. But also, he has 20 or more carries in the last 2 games. So, Philadelphia, come playoff time, like we talked about for the entire season, finally starting to fire up Saquon Barkley to get him ready for another Super Bowl run. Number 3 is going to be a guy that really is under the radar right now, and it's Jauan Jennings. Over the course of the next 3 games, he needs 16 catches plus 105 receiving yards for an incentive of $1.3 million. And Jauan Jennings is a guy that has actually been fairly consistent over the last several weeks. Right now, he has touchdowns in 3 straight games, and he has touchdowns in 5 of his last 6 games. He has also been inside the top 24 wide receivers 5 times in the last 6 games as well. This is a guy that's playing great football right now. He's got matchups against Indianapolis this week, Chicago in week 17, Seattle in week 18, which definitely could end up being one of the tougher matchups, but they just got blown apart by Puka Nacua and Matthew Stafford. So Jauan Jennings could still end up being a decent play even in week 18. 16 catches, 105 receiving yards with the matchups that he has over the last couple of weeks here. I absolutely can see Jauan Jennings reaching both of these milestones. With the matchups that he has to finish the season, he could end up being a great fantasy football asset for your lineups, especially if you've been struggling at wide receiver. And right now over on Underdog, Jennings does not have a ton of picks readily available. We'll start seeing some more come in over the next couple of days. But if you think that he can keep up the scoring that we've seen from him over the course of the last 6 games and find the end zone against Indianapolis, right now an anytime TD has a multiplier of over 1 for Jauan Jennings. Plus, it's officially unwrapped season over at Underdog, with incentives throughout the end of the year to give you the opportunity to finish 2025 strong. And let's say 2025 from a fantasy perspective didn't go the way that you would have hoped. Finishing strong over on Underdog and seeing a ton of green to end the year is exactly the way to help you feel way better about how football has gone so far this season. And when this video goes live, Underdog will have launched a special Josh Allen gimme pick that is going to hit this weekend. You could pair this Jennings pick along with Josh Allen, or if you get signed up using code Headliners and make a deposit of at least $10, you're also going to get a super special gimme pick that's almost guaranteed guaranteed to hit as well. This is a great opportunity for you to launch yourself into Underdog, play a lot of the pick'ems that we talk about throughout the week, maybe do some best ball drafts for the NFL playoffs, and feel really great about where you've gone in 2025, regardless of how your fantasy season has gone for you. On top of that, when you play your first $5 game, you're going to get $75 in bonus contests as well. After their Week 15 performance, it appears that Rico Dowdle will probably still end up being the RB1 in Carolina throughout the rest of the season. It is 2025 though, so anything crazy could end up happening, but Dowdle only needs 113 more total yards to reach an incentive of $1 million this season. And he's got some great matchups left, with 2 games going up against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. So you can rest assured that Rico Dowdle is absolutely going to close on this incentive, and he's going to close in on it fast, and he could do it this week going up against Tampa Bay. Now, Chuba Hubbard is still going to get some touches, so I'm not saying Rico Dowdle is for sure going to hit it this week, but after a tough matchup with Seattle in Week 17, he should be in prime position to reach this incentive if he hasn't done so yet by the time Week 18 has come and gone. Deebo Samuel at number 5, and I know he's been inconsistent and he's definitely had some up and downs this season, especially with Marcus Mariota being the quarterback. However, he only needs 5 more catches plus 96 receiving yards to reach an incentive of $700,000 for the season. And right now, he is averaging just over 46 receiving yards per game. So as long as he can still get close to that against Philadelphia for 2 games, he can really take advantage of it in that Week 17 matchup going up against Dallas. The 5 receptions should end up being no issue whatsoever. Over the last 3 weeks, he's had 5, 4, and 3 receptions. So I definitely could end up seeing him hit that mark in the next 2 games. The receiving yards could end up taking a little bit longer, but they're going to be looking to Deebo Samuel. I know Marcus Mariota, being the player's player that he is, will be trying to help Deebo Samuel haul in an extra $700K this year. And going up against Dallas in Week 17 could end up being the best bet for that to happen. Number 6, Sam Darnold. And these numbers are now updated to include what he did on Thursday Night Football. But with another 297 passing yards plus 4 more touchdowns for the season, he's going to end up racking up incentives worth $1 million. Next week against Carolina is not the best matchup in the world, and then he's got San Francisco in Week 18. But he only needs 297 more passing yards over 2 games, just under 150 yards per game. He's only had under 150 passing yards 1 time this season, and over the last several weeks, he's had 270, 241, 249, 271, 279. He has had more than enough yards in every single game over the last few weeks to lock in 297 yards. Will he hit his passing yard incentives in Week 17? Probably not. Will he hit his passing touchdown incentives in Week 17? Probably not. But the good thing about these incentives is that it could keep Sam Darnold on the field in Week 18. Even if they have their playoff matchup sealed up, we could still end up potentially seeing Sam Darnold for at least a half of football to see if he can hit these incentives. So he could be fantasy viable throughout the rest of the season, which is exactly what we want for fantasy purposes. Stefon Diggs' fantasy numbers haven't been great this season. He's had some good performances and he's disappeared in others, but he only needs 3 more catches on the year to hit $500,000 in incentives. And with the new baby that just arrived, an extra $500,000 isn't the worst thing in the world to have. But he only has 1 game this year where he's had less than 3 catches. And he's going up against Baltimore, the New York Jets, and the Miami Dolphins over the course of the last 3 weeks. This week, he absolutely could end up hitting that incentive and just be done with it. So Stefon Diggs in Week 16, I'm feeling pretty good about 3 or more catches. Leave it to Tony Pollard to be fantasy irrelevant for basically the entire season, get dropped in a majority of leagues, not started in quite some time, and now be the running back 2 and running back 9 in back-to-back weeks. A couple of huge weeks with 161 and 104 rushing yards now put him in position to hit $450,000 in incentives. All he needs is 2 touchdowns plus 253 rushing yards. The touchdowns I could end up seeing happen. Now, he doesn't need both of these. The $450,000 would be split in between the two. So if he were to get 2 rushing touchdowns, but not the 253 rushing yards, he is still going to get a portion of that 450 that we're talking about right now. That is the one that I could see happening way easier than the 253 rushing yards. He's got the Kansas City Chiefs, the New Orleans Saints, and the Jacksonville Jaguars to end up finishing the season here. So the touchdowns, 2 touchdowns in 3 games after having 3 touchdowns over the course of the last 2 games definitely could end up being a possibility. But 253 rushing yards, that's a big one. Over the next 3 games, he would have to average just over 84 rushing yards per game to end up hitting this incentive. But so far this season, he's only averaged 60 yards per game on the ground. So that is a tough task still. But if you believe that Tennessee wants to help him hit that incentive, we could definitely be looking at the touchdowns more than the rushing yards. Since week 4, Keenan Allen has only been inside the top 37 wide receivers 1 time. He really hasn't done anything since the first 3 games of the year, and now he finds himself in a position where he could still lock in $750,000 if he can hit 3 more plateaus. Number 1 would be 3 catches. Number 2 would be 70 receiving yards. Number 3 would be 2 touchdowns. The 3 catches is going to probably be easy. When you take a look at it, he's had at least 3 catches in every single game this year, but 2. 70 receiving yards, he could still end up getting there. He's got 3 games to do it. Dallas this week, which is definitely a big help. However, he's going to have to make up a brunt of it this week because then he's got Houston and Denver to end the season. Those will not be fun fantasy matchups. The 2 receiving touchdowns could also end up happening as well, but he hasn't had a receiving touchdown since week 7. So the incentives for the catches, I think he gets there. 3 catches over the next 3 games, absolutely. But the 70 receiving yards and the 2 touchdowns, those are going to be way tougher. The 70 receiving yards is still in play. I think that would be the second easiest. I don't think the touchdowns end up happening though. At number 10, Kareem Hunt. He needs 226 total yards to end up reaching a $125,000 incentive. And I absolutely think this one could end up hitting, especially the fact that Gardner Minshew will be starting at quarterback over the next 3 games while Patrick Mahomes begins his rehab from a torn ACL. We could be relying on the run game quite a bit with both Isaiah Pacheco and Kareem Hunt. And we know Kansas City is really about their players. This is not an organization that is looking to keep guys from hitting incentives. So I really believe that the 206 total yards that Kareem Hunt needs over the next 3 games absolutely could end up happening. Kareem Hunt will definitely need to pick it up a little bit. Right now, he's averaging 48.5 total yards per game over the course of the season. If that were to be his average the rest of the year, he's only going to get 145.5 total yards. So realistically, we need that number to go way up. But he does have a couple of very solid matchups. Tennessee and Las Vegas. Sandwiched in between them will be Denver, which will be very tough. But with no Patrick Mahomes, I could see Kareem Hunt with double-digit carries the rest of the season. I could also see Kareem Hunt getting involved in the passing game way more often than what we've seen so far. And a lot of this is going to depend on what happens against Tennessee this week. If you feel like Kareem Hunt is going to end up hitting 226 total yards over the next 3 games, then you're going to be banking on him having a pretty solid day going up against Tennessee. How about Dawson Knox coming out of nowhere over the last couple of weeks to be a top fantasy tight end? And you have to wonder if these incentives have played any part in that, because these big games have closed in on him getting a $300,000 incentive bonus this year. All he needs the rest of the year over the next 3 games, 2 catches, plus 47 receiving yards, plus a touchdown as well. Now again, these incentives do not have to stack for the entire $300,000. He could hit each one individually and get one for each of those incentives. So 2 catches, absolutely. That could end up happening this week. 1 touchdown, absolutely. That could end up happening this week. 47 receiving yards, absolutely. That could end up happening this week. I actually think that he might be a safer bet right now than Dalton Kincaid, which is kind of crazy to say. Kincaid still has a little bit more upside for me, but Dawson Knox and Josh Allen, we've seen them connect for strings of games before, and they may be in the middle of one right now. And some incentives from Dawson Knox definitely makes it a lot easier for Josh Allen to help look out for his guy. Number 12, Hunter Henry. Now with Hunter Henry, he only needs 4 more receptions for $250,000. He could end up getting 1, 1, and 2 to finish the season. He could end up getting 1, 0, and 3. He could end up getting 4, 0, and 0. What I mean by that is that he's been up and down all year. So it's going to be really hard to predict when exactly Hunter Henry is going to get his 4 receptions. But 4 receptions in 3 games is absolutely doable. But keep an eye on it. If he has a really poor week 16, week 17 could end up being a lot better. If he doesn't play well in week 16 and week 17, then maybe we go all in on Hunter Henry in week 18 to surpass 4 receptions. And number 13, Juwan Johnson. Over the next 3 games, he needs 8 receptions plus 56 receiving yards to haul in an extra $375,000. He hasn't had a ton of upside as of lately. 8 catches is not going to happen in one game, but I definitely could see him breaking that number easily in week 18. For 56 receiving yards, he could end up getting there this week, but if he doesn't get there this week, he should absolutely get there next week. Juwan Johnson, to me, has a stable floor, a stable enough floor that he'll definitely end up hitting these numbers. But another one to keep an eye on. If he has a poor game in week 16 and or week 17, then week 18, we could be all in on him. Number 14, Khalil Shakir. He just needs 1 more touchdown for $150,000. I can be assured that at some point in time, Josh Allen is going to look his way to get him that touchdown, but he only needs 1 over the course of the next 3 weeks. If we were heading into week 18 and he still needed 1 touchdown, then I would be banking on him to score that touchdown. But at this point, it's really hard to figure out when exactly that touchdown may come, even if we do think it does. The wide receivers for Buffalo have been super inconsistent all year long. And at number 15, Hollywood Brown. He needs 6 receiving yards plus a touchdown for $750,000 in incentives. The 6 receiving yards he should take care of this week, and he should end up finding the end zone at least once over the course of the next 3 games. Gardner Minshew, I mean, he's a gunslinger. We know that, and I'm sure him and Hollywood Brown probably both know the incentives that are on the line at this point. I could see him definitely looking to him in the red zone at some point over the next 3 weeks. I've got a couple of bonus picks here for you, and neither of these picks have any incentives tied to these numbers, but they do have some history tied to these numbers. Trey McBride right now needs 11 receptions to break the single season reception record for the tight end position. Obviously, with Jacoby Brissett taking over, he has been the tight end to own and play throughout the last several weeks of the season. 11 receptions, he just had 12 last week. He absolutely is going to get 11 more receptions over the last 3 games. It doesn't change a whole lot of anything at this point. We're still playing him and we're still seeing a ton of upside. Oh, and by the way, if for some reason he doesn't reach it this week going up against Atlanta, they've got the Cincinnati Bengals in week 17. He should end up shattering the record. This name is going to make a lot of you sweat bullets, but it's Justin Jefferson. Right now, he only needs 168 more receiving yards to reach 1,000 for the season. So far, he has 5 straight seasons of 1,000 yards to begin his career. If he can end up hitting 1,000 yards this year, it would be 6 and would put him on track to continue chasing down Mike Evans and that record for 1,000 receiving yards to begin a career. But one that's a little bit lower is 112 receiving yards. If he can get to 112 receiving yards, he will break the record for most receiving yards in a 6-season span. So yeah, him and JJ McCarthy haven't been on the same page, but I can be willing to bet that him and JJ McCarthy have had some conversations about getting to 1,000 receiving yards, and that JJ is going to do everything that he can to help Justin Jefferson get there. Plus, they have a matchup, not this week, but in week 17, against the Detroit Lions secondary that really can't stop anybody right now. Headliner Nation, hopefully you enjoyed this video. It was fun to do another one-off show that maybe didn't have a ton to do with fantasy football, but was still relevant and allowed us to talk about something that we really don't talk about that often on the channel. So do me a favor, if you appreciate the content, hit the like button. But more importantly, subscribe to the channel and turn on the bell notifications. We're going to be doing awesome content all year long. When football ends, we don't stop. we keep working. We definitely help you become more knowledgeable about fantasy football and football in general throughout the entire offseason. So if you like football, make sure you keep coming back. Even when there's no football on TV, you can still have us up right here on YouTube. Headliner Nation, stay safe, stay healthy. Good luck in all of your matchups this week, and I'll catch you all in the next episode of the Fantasy Headliners.